I think Twitter is apparently the fourth or fifth, or maybe sixth most popular social media platform in Nigeria. And by asking the Association of Telco Companies to cut off from Twitter, you're essentially reducing the revenue that they can make from data renewals, and you are reducing revenue that they pay in taxes to you, the federal government. So that's one. That's a big own goal, because they're just reducing. And ICT sector was one of the best performing. Well, this particular quarter, it fell thanks to the boneheaded policy of restricting the SIM registration.
Yeah.
Because of the whole NIN nonsense, they lost about, quarter alone, they lost about 3 million subscribers. Subscriber numbers dipped because of the whole NIN thing. But telcos was one of the shining quarter four, double-digit growth of about 14% GDP. And now it fell to 7% in Q1. But still, the ICT sector and telecommunications, one of the shining lights for the nation as far as GDP is concerned. So by telling telcos to cut off access to a popular platform that people subscribe to and use, you're reducing not only their data revenue, you're reducing tax revenue to yourself. Anyway, Garbasheo put out
he put out a statement.
Yeah, and he called it a temporary ban.
Yeah.
But so they've backtracked now. It's no longer an indefinite ban. It's temporary. Think about the businesses. Think about every time a business advertises on Twitter.
Yeah.
My next customer is on your timeline. Please retweet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Fashion people, food caterers, party organizers, even our jobs. My job doing radio as a business analyst is impacted, right? Because I'm not able to verify news. TB Joshua died. May soul rest in peace. And I had to verify on Facebook. I mean,
I heard. Do you know what I heard from the news? I heard the news on my way out of the estates. It was the security guards who were speaking, and it was like, oh, won't you'd have seen it trending on Twitter? And I was like, oh, unfortunately, because usually that's people's primary source of news, because it's just on your fingertips. Of course, we cannot deny, some of the fake news and the likes, but there's almost no good thing that doesn't come with its own, with its own backlash, if I can put it that way. So but you put in certain measures to ensure that you deal with these issues. Now, we've talked about the Nigerian government's response to many things, which is banning. And I'm saying this here because Rotus, we've talked about a ban of rice, CBN placing on ban on a number of things, closing the borders. So usually the response to things that don't quite go well with them is a total ban. We don't think of ways to manage the issues, ways, thinking of or doing an evaluation, an impact assessment of its effect on its citizens. Like you've mentioned, think of COVID-19, NCDC posting stats. Where did people get information primarily? Think of when they had to, they had to do a massive campaign. Social media was a great platform for them to do this, whilst ensuring that obeying community guidelines. They also used that to pull down fake news. EndSARS. When EndSARS happened, the federal government was able to counteract what they termed as fake news by also posting their part. And they used the same community guidelines to address Twitter, and Twitter pulled down posts that the federal government had flagged as fake news. So it's interesting that they'd use these mechanisms, use these platforms for the good of Nigeria. And then all of a sudden it's become a tool to ban without thinking of, like you've mentioned, the impact. We're going to be talking about this during Freshly Pressed, but I think it was Guardian newspaper that's monetized how much we potentially lost in the last 3 days on Twitter, 7.5 billion naira. So we don't actually think of the cost implications.
That estimate, I think, came from a site called NetBlocks. NetBlocks, folks want to go check it out, netblocks.com. You can review the loss. Well, and the way they calculate the losses, they're using a metric, basically using a metric that looks at it's an estimate, what total
Yeah.
all the engagement of businesses in Nigeria and the revenue it could potentially, it's a rough estimate. But look, the CBN ban on rice and other things, that one at least you can say it is to try and spur domestic production. So that's why they're trying to restrict. And in fact, that one isn't even a ban. They were just really restricting access to foreign exchange from the official central bank window. You could still from the parallel market. But there's no comparison. This one is just, it was only an issue between, hang on. It was only an issue between the president and Twitter. I have nothing to do with this. You have nothing to do with this. Nigerians don't have anything to do with this. Trump has been banned permanently. Trump, suspend Twitter from the entire America. So that's a personal issue between him and the platform. It has nothing to do with us. And the impact on businesses it's going to be severe, with respect to what, the amplification. I mean, remember when they moved to Ghana?
Yes.
Twitter said when they put out their statement for why they moved to Ghana, opened their first office in Africa, in Ghana, is because they said Ghana is a model for democracy and free speech. That's why they opened their office. And now we can see those words coming back and looking prophetic, So it's again, I can understand all the other central bank restrictions for foreign exchange from the official. Speaking of central bank, not to dwell too much on this Twitter thing, the central bank has now allocated more foreign exchange to banks. Gordon Emefiele had a meeting with deposit money banks managing directors over the weekend, where he warned them not to restrict foreign exchange from Nigerians that need to travel for business, travel for personal reasons, business school fees, medical, so on and so forth. Seeing what's happening in the parallel market, the dollar is now at 4.95. I do not understand how it is touching 500 naira, simply because they removed the official 380 rates from the website and replaced it with the NAFEX rate. No one's used that 380 rates for so long. Speculators now jumped on it and used that, called it a devaluation, and now they've restricted FX, and now the parallel market is going to 500 naira. It doesn't make any sense. But so that's news, just to let anybody. So if you need access to foreign exchange for PTA, personal travel allowance, BTA, business allowance, medical, so on, you can approach your bank and try and get it because they've allocated more. So that's what else is going on.
That's great news. We have some comments here on WhatsApp. You can send your comments through the YouTube streaming app as well. You can just use the comment section and would read out as well. Wengakumu says the Twitter ban shows why investors are wary of putting their funds into the country. Government can wake up one day and scatter any business. And then Daniel says, do these social media companies pay taxes in Nigeria? That's a good question. Rotus, do you know if they pay taxes in Nigeria? No.
Twitter doesn't pay taxes in Nigeria. Twitter pays tax. It's an American company domiciled in the United States, so it pays its taxes in America. So there's no, they don't pay any taxes here, no.
So the tax that you mentioned earlier on, that Rotus was referring to earlier on, was the taxes that business owners who transact business or their businesses are helped by Twitter will pay to the government.
Yeah, telcos, for example, telecommunications companies that have restricted access. That's an example.
Excellent. Ibrahim says, to be honest, reduction in revenues for telcos isn't the major problem here. It's a business conversation, but the bigger business conversation should be reduction in investor confidence and so on. Someone said this morning that getting a remote work from Nigeria has become a major problem as prospective employers know that's international employers know that your government can just yank you off anytime. It's really sad. Our country needs to be saved. Goke from the UK says it's quite obvious the federal government didn't seek professional advice or do a thorough review before carrying out the Twitter ban. It was a childish decision. Also, I was just going to say that in Garba Shehu's statement, he said it wasn't because the president was offended. He said, it's been a matter of concern for a while now. They brought it up. Social media has been a concern to the government. And so it's not because they deleted the president's tweets. That's what Garba Shehu said.
Yeah, right. Sure.
Imo from Ikeja says, with the way things are, I am extremely thankful that Twitter doesn't have an office in Nigeria. Let's just imagine with what could have been happening to them right now. D from Alausa says Twitter doesn't respect local laws by allowing outlaws such as Kanu to use the Twitter platform to disseminate instructions to Biafran supporters. Twitter should realize that business in Nigeria should also involve diplomacy. And then Yinka says, we cannot deny that some elements have abused Twitter, but how hard is it for the federal government to bring all the news outlets with Twitter handles, come to an agreement on how to manage fake news? We know some handles won't come out, but we don't care, and that's a ground for blacklisting them. Next, if there's an inciting tweet, engage Twitter and it will be brought down. How hard is that? Banning Twitter and you create another monster makes no sense. That the federal government did not analyze the cost implication is the reason why these guys shouldn't be in government managing the affairs of this country. And it's not far-fetched why we are in this economic mess, he ends. Right. A number of things. People have described it as cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Exactly.
Again, assessments not being done. Yeah.
Exactly. It's just, it's I use Twitter more than any other social media platform. It is. I'm a big tennis fan. I've been following the French Open.
Yeah.
Been able to, it's not, so sports, business, entertainment. You're hearing from direct sources on there. Celebrities go on there. The World Bank is on there. The IMF is on there. The African Development Bank is. Everybody uses this, but the Nigerian government. So this, like you said, So I don't know. We'll have to see when they decide to go back on this. Real quick, this USSD. Remember the USSD fight between banks and telcos? That's 6 naira 98 kobo. It has gone into effect. So sending notices now that you pay 6 naira 98 kobo for every session you spend using USSD. And then Dangote's fertilizer plants officially begin selling fertilizer today, Monday. So we should hopefully see within a quarter from now, FX coming in from that if they can sell that.
Excellent.
For sure. So that's what's happening.
Great news. Thank you so much. I'm glad that the positive news coming in from the business world. I'll just end with Prince's comment. Prince says, well, me, I was able to read books because I don't have access to Twitter again. An advantage in a way. Prince, you should be a part of the government because you look at one aspect and you don't actually have a holistic view. It's not about one person. It's about, let's look at the wider, it's not, the wider implications of this. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Rotus, as well. I would have said follow Rotus on Twitter, but he's not on Twitter at the moment.
I'm on Twitter. Go and check. If you have access, go on there.
All right. Thank you so much for today. Right. Don't forget, we have a robust conversation at 7:30 during Freshly Pressed 9 on. We'll be talking about the Twitter ban. And then at 9 o'clock, I have human rights lawyer Chidi Odinkalu and the president of Alton coming to speak to us on Twitter ban as well.
Everybody should check that out.
Conversation. Join us for 9 a.m. during Lagos Talks 981. In the meantime, enjoy some great music here on Smooth 98.1.
Critical focus on the Nigerian economy. We see the bigger picture. Business Express on Smooth 98.1. This is Johnny Drill, and you're listening to Smooth.
Thank you all very much for listening. See you later.